this podcast was initially released on Daniel Abebe's Remote Culture podcast. Daniel is the CEO and founder of Huggy Studio, a Swiss-based IT company that provides advice to entrepreneurs for business growth. And like me, he understands that culture, although not quite measurable, plays a significant role in the success and failure of a business. It was great being on the other side of the podcast fence, if you will. I loved having Daniel rack my brain a little bit about what culture means for Arcanys and how it has evolved now that most of us are working remotely. So I'm not going to give too much away, and I hope you enjoy listening to this one and check out Daniel's podcast too.
And we're live. Hi everyone, today we're with Fred from Arcanys. Thanks so much for being here, Fred. How are you doing?
Great, thanks. How about you?
Good, great. Thanks for being here. I'm super excited to talk to you about culture today, more specifically remote culture. So for those who don't know you, Fred, can you tell us more about yourself and about Arcanys as well?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me first. I'm Fred. I'm the co-founder of Arcanys. We're a software development outsourcing company based in the Philippines and in Bulgaria. We've been running since 2010. We have around 300 employees at the moment, and we're working with SMEs and scale-ups from mostly Australia, Europe, and the west coast of the US.
Wow. How did Arcanys start?
Yeah, so what I didn't say is that I'm the head of growth, and we started with my longtime friend, high school friend actually, Alan Debonneville, about about 13 years ago with Arcanys. But prior to that, we both were based in Hong Kong, and we're running an e-commerce business. And for that e-commerce business, we needed developers and customer care people. And we were based in Hong Kong, but we heard that the Philippines was great for customer service people and also software developers. So we had an opportunity to move to the Philippines. That was end of 2009, actually. And in 2010, we actually moved the whole business, this e-commerce venture, to the Philippines. But the market in which has changed, and so that e-commerce venture wasn't doing so well anymore. But we had hired a team of developers. We had some friends that were starting to ask us to hire software developers for them as well. And looking at the opportunity that this path could give us, that's when we decided to create Arcanys and focus on that business since early 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like you traveled a lot, right? But you're based in Switzerland, or where you were based in Switzerland, you personally, right? Or
so I was based in Switzerland until 2008. And then I moved to work with Alan in 2009 in Hong Kong,
yeah.
and for this new venture that he had created. And then about a year after, we then moved to the Philippines because we thought it was better for that initial business
Wow.
to be there. Yeah.
May I ask, what
Yeah.
was this e-commerce about? What
So
were you selling?
so Alan is really an entrepreneur since he was like 18 or 19 years old, and he was also an avid gamer. So he was gaming in EverQuest and World of Warcraft, and his first venture was into buying and selling virtual currency for these online games. And so in 2001, he started this business with another business partner back then. And until 2007, they grew the business to it was a huge business. They were the biggest reseller of virtual currency in these games in the world. And I think their sales were about $100 million a year of these sales. And in 2007, they had a lot of investors from investment from VC companies, Goldman Sachs and stuff, who poured hundreds of millions of dollars in the business, and kind of everything blew up where he got betrayed by his first co-founder, and so he exited that business and recreated another business in the same industry, but not buying and selling currencies anymore, but just buying and selling game accounts. So when a gamer was bored playing that type of character in World of Warcraft, he could come to our website and sell his character for a certain amount of money, usually 100, $200, and then buy another one that was already leveled up and stuff, saving them like hundreds of hours of work of gameplay if you want, but the boring part of the gameplay, and then go off and play with that one. And
Wow.
yeah,
Okay, that's super specific. I didn't expect an answer. I thought you would
yeah,
say like
yeah.
something
So,
like,
so
yeah, selling
yeah.
laptops or something.
No, no, it was super, super, super geeky stuff. Like,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Cool. I'm glad I asked. So now that you had that e-commerce, you decided to first of all you decided to move to Hong Kong, which shows already that you're kind of familiar with traveling for business. And then you decide one more time to travel to the Philippines, right? So
yeah,
at this point of time, you moved twice,
yeah,
and you wanted to get to like customer service people first, right? When you moved to the Philippines,
yeah.
and you ended up hiring developers. So how did that happen?
Right. So yeah, so because in Hong Kong, most of our clients for that first venture were American clients, U.S. clients, and people in Hong Kong don't specifically have a great English accent. They have a very heavy Hong Kong or Chinese accent, which our customers didn't really appreciate that much. And of course, the cost of having uh, customer service people that spoke really good English in Hong Kong was particularly expensive. And we heard from our network of a guy who wanted to sell a small business in the same space, and so we started talking with this guy, and then we met him, and we ended up buying this very small part of the business. But then it opened our eyes to the Philippines, and that we could have really awesome customer service people there, because the English level is the best in Asia. They speak kind of American English, and they're of course like a lot cheaper than the people we could find in Hong Kong. And I think culturally also Filipinos are super service oriented. They're like super nice people, super friendly. They always want to help. So I mean, it was a great fit. And then we wanted to have our developers in house, and that's what when we started searching for software developers, and we realized that we could find good devs in the Philippines as well, and that's kind of like how it started.
Great. And at this stage, when you bought this mini part of the business, this business already had employees,
Yeah, but it was a side business. So the small business that we bought, actually they were playing games to level up game accounts to be resold down the road. So they were not customer service people, but they were like a small part of the business where we thought we could have part of the
hmm
supply done by ourselves instead of going to the market. And uh, and so that was a fun little part that we bought. And yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah.
And then so that was when, like 10 years ago, you
Two,
said?
yeah, in 2009,
2009. Okay.
2010. Yeah, yeah,
So 2009, you decided to go and open up this shop in the Philippines, and you had zero employees, right? And now you
yeah.
have 300 employees or over 300 employees,
Yes,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So tell us, if we do the shift to the culture of the company, um, 300 employees within 10 years, it's very fast. Like some agencies make it to 20 within a couple of years, and it's still like a nice growth. So tell us about like how did you go with the topic of hiring, and how did culture evolve over time,
Mhm.
the more you grew and the more employees you had?
Yeah, so I think every time a company reaches a certain threshold, and it's different, I guess, for every company and every industry, but um, you have to change a bit the structure of the company. You reach certain points where you realize, okay, this kind of structure doesn't work anymore, and then we have to adjust it. And so we started as a traditional company, like with a traditional structure with managers and units of developers, and then over time um, we we changed the structure, but how we were managing or giving more and more autonomy to the developers by putting them directly with the client, and then giving them, like, empowering them and manage their own career, rather than having, people bossing them around and stuff like that. So we give them, of course, uh, the more autonomy by giving schedule flexibility, now location flexibility, and this came with COVID, right? And basically, the premise is that we trust that they'll do a good job, and so this allows us to reduce the monitoring metrics and stuff like that. And actually, um, the way we do that is also, the client is kind of the one who is going to assess the performance of the developers. And so developers know that as long as their clients are happy, um, then they are safe with us. And then if, for example, a client is unhappy about the performance of someone, then we really do a great job at trying to understand where does this problem come from. And in a lot of the cases, it's not the developer's problem. It's like the tools that are given to him, maybe the requirements that are given to him, the processes that we or the company that is our client has, that is detrimental to the collaboration. And then so we try to fix that. And then when developers have issues, usually it's because they have personal problems, and then we try to help them and give them some
Got
time
you.
to regroup. And yeah. um, and
Got you.
by just one more thing that I think is very important is, when
Yeah.
we tried to be a bit of a flatter organization, and
Hmm.
removing middle management. It also helped remove a lot of the politics inside the company, which is what a lot of people don't like about working in companies, is all the office politics. And so that was a big part of us trying to remove it.
So the way you're structured is that you have the company Arcanist, then you have all the employees, and
Yeah.
all the employees also have a client or several
Mhm.
clients. Is that correct?
Mostly one client, so they are dedicated to one client. Yeah. And
Okay.
they are led by the client on a technical perspective. So our developers work with lead developers or CTOs, and they're basically managed on a technical basis. Yeah, to
I
make them
see.
grow as well.
I see. And isn't that a challenge when you look at the culture? Because you have one company, one organization, right, with like yours, Arcanis.
Hmm.
Then they're based in a location abroad, and they
Hmm.
have one client they work mainly for that is also somewhere else, right?
Hmm.
So is the employee part of the Arcanis culture, like your company culture, or is the employee part of the client's culture?
Both, um, because well, yeah, developers are in the Philippines, or now recently in Bulgaria. Um, but they identify first with Arcanis because they're hired by us, and then we do a, a good. I mean, we try to do a good job at integrating them in the company culture. We have like events. We have, I mean, a lot of things that are happening aside the project they're working on. But they also really identify themselves a lot with the client they're working with, because they are part of the client's team, and they are mostly treated as same as other employees, simply just not, for example, in Australia or in Switzerland, because simply we work remotely. So, and we encourage our clients to also do a lot of stuff, and integrate them in the company's culture.
I see. Now, if we focus just on the company culture of Arcanis,
Yeah.
how because you said they identify to Arcanis to your company.
Mhm.
So how do they actually identify, and how do you measure that? Like, how do you measure culture overall with Arcanis? I rephrase. What is culture for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Um, so culture is what we do for our employees, and um, I would say we the way we see it is like, it's employees first and customers second. And customers don't really like to hear that, but truth is we have to care first for our employees so that we know. So this means like it means performance, it means culture, it means interest in the job. I mean, I can explain that in details, but if we take care first of this, and we have happy, motivated employees that are working on projects they like, then they're going to make the client happy. And so, so that's what we our culture is really empowering and taking care of our employees. And you asked another question just before you rephrase, is like, how do we measure culture? And we don't really we can't really measure culture. We actually measure the results of the culture. And the way we do that is we talk to each and every one of our developers every 6 months. And so we are asking them, obviously, if they're happy with their project, happy with the clients, and of course happy with the company, and what improvement suggestions they have for the company or the project they're working on. So and then the thing is, because we try to work on trust as much as possible, employees really tell us what they think. They would really write us like thorough feedbacks on how we can improve. And so it's this evolving thing where we try to act on the suggestions we get. We also do a lot of surveys throughout the company to get the temperature, if you want. um, and we get a sense also on our Glassdoor reviews. So Glassdoor is a site where employees can leave reviews. Um, and the final metrics, really, I think, is the attrition rate. How often do people leave the company? And then if we look at um, the average of the industry, which is around 20%, we're like at less than 8%. So we think that attrition is natural and is healthy, but we try to maintain it down as much as we can. So I know it's not exactly the response you were maybe expecting in like what is our culture, but um,
I
this is how
I think
we
there's
this is
no,
how we see it.
yeah, that's good because I think there's no right and wrong. Um, like I heard once the founder of Airbnb saying, there's no bad or good culture. There's just weak and strong cultures, and I like
Yeah,
that sentence a lot. And how you do it is like it's so personal because there's no books
right.
about how to create the
Yeah,
exact right culture. And if there
yeah,
was a book,
yeah.
I wouldn't buy it because that's not that's not how
That's
you do
right.
it.
I heard this sentence actually. Um, it goes a bit in the same way as you said, but this sentence where culture is not what you say. So we don't have all these values that are printed on a wall or stuff like that, because words are empty if you don't act on what you're saying. So that's why we put so many efforts into improving the autonomy, the comfort, and the giving meaningful work to our employees. And I can go into more details also on what we did to improve the culture over time.
Yeah. So that would be my next question actually, and because you mentioned it real quick with the values. So we work with values with at Hagi Studio, but we had that exact same problem, like saying that the values are just here and they're written somewhere and nobody really you know um,
Yeah,
use them or
they have
live
to
them. And
believe in them.
exactly,
You can't
exactly. There
just
should
feed
be
values and think that
exact.
people would just do what is written on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you just read it one time when you start, you work your
Yeah,
first day and here are the values. Okay, thank you very much.
yeah,
Great values.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
nobody leaves
yeah,
them because it's basically
yeah,
like do what I say, know what I do. And
yeah.
and that's pretty, yeah, common to see. And great. So just for the sake of clarification, so far you're all in the same building, or not, like not today, but like until before COVID, before COVID.
Until March 13 or 15 or something, when everything locked down pretty much everywhere on the planet, right? We were we were 99% office based. Yeah.
Okay, good. So
Mm.
so let's have two phases. Like the first one would be pre-COVID. What did you do to
Yeah.
improve culture, and then after COVID, if that's okay for you?
Yeah. So what we did before COVID was, I think, the stuff that I mentioned earlier, which was like a try to change the structure of the company to give more autonomy, remove the structure, empower the developers to understand that it's in their hands. We put a lot of stuff in terms of growth. So we put paid trainings they could take. We we built canteen. We were distributing free food. We were um, uh, we implemented like gym memberships. We had yoga classes. We had
Yeah,
outings, movie nights.
so many
Um,
perks, right?
yeah,
Mostly employee perks.
yeah, because I mean, people in the Philippines really, when you go to work, it's a bit different than in Europe. I think when you go to work, you really make friends at work. Like, you don't. It's not like you come and just keep your life private and then you go out and you have a different set of friends. A lot of the time, and because more than 40% of our employees have been referred by other employees, um, then you bring your friends at work. So that's why we do things so that people can get together and enjoy time together, because that really is super important.
That's an impressive metric, actually. You said 40%.
Yeah, but more than
Wow,
40% of our new employees are referred by our current employees.
wow.
Yeah.
And if we move now to after COVID, so COVID hit. For the
Yeah.
ones who are not familiar with the Philippines or Bulgaria,
Yeah.
how bad was COVID for you guys?
So I don't know about Bulgaria because that happened after COVID, but in the Philippines it was really really bad. And in the first 4 months, we basically weren't allowed to leave our homes without having the risk of having serious problems. We had cops and some military in the streets. It was, I mean, it was a bit traumatic for me.
Mhm.
So it was really home based, but like 100% home based. You couldn't go out to have a walk or nothing like that.
So you had to reinvent kind of the company culture, right? Because it was mostly based
Yeah,
on perks like eating together, gym,
yeah,
those kind of things.
yeah,
So how did you
yeah,
reinvent then company culture?
yeah. So yeah, that's true. A lot of the stuff was gone, right? And so we tried to have like um, give even more autonomy and try to give as much comfort as possible with the home based structure that is here for us
Mm,
to kind of stay. So we gave a lot of allowances, um, monthly work from home allowances and stuff like that. We tried to add additional health benefits. So we were paying already like the gym membership, but then we went on to say, okay, you guys can buy home equipment because we're one problem in the Philippines is the nutrition and the exercise. A lot of people don't exercise, and the food is really not healthy. Um, so we're putting a huge emphasis on like trying to get people to move and to eat healthy. So our canteen, for example, was like, okay, we're doing healthy meals, and we had an Australian chef that was preparing. That was the mission. He was cooking. I mean, preparing the menu with healthy stuff. And so we tried to keep doing that. We had some online Zoom events, but I mean, you can go as far as it goes with that. I mean, it's
mm.
not replacing for people to meet. And I think a lot of people in the Philippines also were have been really scared of COVID for a long time, because also the vaccines came late, so it was hard to get in person events for almost 2 years. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that was bad for many countries, but
yeah,
in if I remember correctly, we always had like, it was bad for like 3 months and then good for 2 months and bad for 3 months. I mean, I refer to
yeah,
Switzerland.
yeah,
So
yeah. So
so
here
now
was kind of bad throughout.
so that was like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I need to yeah, it's 2 years ago. So how did you take it? Because you start with okay, now you should be able to work at home with the right equipment and so on.
Mhm,
But you said before there were really identifying to Arcanys. So how did that change?
Yeah. So yeah, we kind of were worried that the culture would fizzle a little bit, and I guess, but because people were mostly scared of going out and stuff, and nobody really wanted to come back to the office, and coming back to the office was logistically so difficult that we just said, okay, home based stuff is going to remain for as long as possible. So we just tried to make their lives as nice as possible and giving them like flexibility with time and stuff like that, so that they can, mix their personal stuff with work in a nice way. But then we try to add over time also additional health benefits. We have a foundation that is helping poor families with math education. So we're helping around I think 2,000 families a year with that, and we encourage, for example, our employees to work out, and every time they work out, they get a small cash incentive, but we match that cash incentive with stuff we're donating to the foundation. So we've logged, I think, in the last 2 years, more than 30,000 workouts. That was probably around $30,000 given to the foundation, um, and now we people are coming back to meeting again. So we've increased also these perks. We've hired a dietitian, we've hired a wellness coach
Wow.
that does stuff remotely for now. But what we're doing, the next stuff we're gonna do, and we're actually really starting the project now, is to build a gym for our staff. So we're hiring CrossFit coaches from France um, to come and build this gym with us. And then with that gym, we're gonna try to build some kind of community center. So we have this gym element, but then we have this cafe and restaurant element. And then on top of that, we want to build like a hangout and co working space where our employees would come and work with their buddies whenever they want. And of course, we try to encourage them to come and work out with us. So it's not going to be just CrossFit, it's going to be like CrossFit, high intensity stuff. We probably have yoga and a bit of boxing stuff. We don't know exactly yet, but we're going to build a building specifically for Arcanis and our people.
So I have two like follow-up questions or discussion points. So the first one is, I'm impressed by how much you push the healthy components. It's like it feels like people work also at Arcanis to become better overall, not only at work but like also to have a better
Yeah,
lifestyle and to have a better health. It looks like you're really caring about how
yeah,
they evolve also outside of
yeah,
technical skills,
yeah,
and that's beautiful to hear and to watch and to understand actually. So is that like, did I summarize it the right
yeah.
way?
Yeah, I mean, and it's yeah, because I used to be quite fat, and my business partner Alan also was pretty overweight when I joined him in Hong Kong, and I discovered the fitness journey a bit earlier than he did. But now we both became CrossFit addicts, and then we're like listening to every podcast that we can of really like super high end doctors and specialists in longevity, in healthy living, and stuff like that. And it has changed my life. It has really changed his life as well. And when we started pushing this to our employees, we started with what we call the Wednesday class, where I would go talk about health and fitness and stuff, and trying to push them with first Spartan races, because I was a business partner with um, with the guy who launched Spartan races in the Philippines. We even opened a training ground in Cebu, and I got to race with a bunch of my employees. We went to Manila, we went to Malaysia, and so it just kind of started like that. And then we were like, wow, this is, it could really change people's lives. And it has. And so this snowballing effect that we saw at the beginning was at 10, 15 people, and now since COVID ended ish, so people can meet again, um,
Fingers crossed.
we've yeah, we created an app where people can log their workouts and get their bonuses and stuff. And we pushed it. Now we say, if you guys work out, we give you a Garmin watch to measure your stuff. And then we passed from 50 to more than 100 people who are working out at least 2 3 times a week, logging their workouts. So uh, that's culture, right? Like, we care
Yeah,
about
it is.
people, they
It
feel
is.
it, and they're so proud of their achievements. We sponsor races, so it's so cool.
It is.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Congrats. Because you know, when we hear some of the perks, we just have the feeling, okay, those are employee perks, because many companies offer like, hey, go to train and you can go to the cinema and stuff. But when we dig a little bit deeper, I have the feeling that it goes back to the direction of a, employee first, customer second. You need to first help yourself because before you help others. You need to first love yourself because before you can love others. That's like the one thing that keeps on coming up, in our discussion. And it looks like this is all about Arcanys. Like how can we make people feel better overall, happier, in better health, like happier
yeah,
with their family and stuff, so that they can be
yeah,
happier, the clients can be happier. It's just like this whole loop, right? And it comes from
yeah.
your story. So I think that's a pretty strong culture that or it also very much matches your DNA, right?
Well, I mean, it changed. It got even more important over time. Right at the beginning, we kind of, when we arrived in the Philippines, we didn't know how much time would stay here, how things would work out, and over time, you first we struggled. I mean, we struggled for 5 or 6 years to start the business, and we're not that focused on culture from the start. Although we knew that it was really important, but we didn't have the means to actually deploy deploy it, right? And then we had to learn the culture of the country, learn how what people like, and the struggles, and what makes them happy and stuff. And then over time, and that's particularly Alan's job, really, to work on the culture so much. And now we're at a place where I mean, we're really far from being perfect, but everything we add is, it's like it's kind of magically fitting in what we started. and uh and we ask people, right? So we do stuff that people we know are going to like. We just have sometimes to find a bit of incentive to make them move and stuff like that, because some are afraid, some, but um and and it's just so cool. And now it's more like, okay, we're like, about this gym stuff. It came, really, we talked about it for some times and stuff, but one afternoon on Sunday at my place, I had Alan and his girlfriend over, and we're chatting around the pool. And and we had traveled so much in the last 2 years over COVID, and I've seen so many different CrossFit gyms around, and I was like, oh wow, if we had this in Cebu, it would be fantastic. And then think about the people, what it could bring to the culture. And Alan and I, the next day, were like, okay, let's do it. Like, now let's do the business plan. And it's so much fun, and I'm sure people would really love it.
But and and
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like you mentioned before, like people are happy, but sometimes you need to give incentives.
yeah.
So two things. First thing is it really helps when you have like a role model. Like you guys are the founders and the managing directors of the company, and you embody that. Like you go out and you train, you go, you even travel and then you train there. And that's like who you are, right? So when you can look up to somebody, to someone who does that, that really helps.
Hmm.
And the second thing is like, um, this year I run like a mini marathon. I don't know how to call that, like a local kind of a local event here in Switzerland. And that was the first time I did that. Like I never did such a thing before. And there is this sense of pride after achieving
Yeah.
something that you always
And
thought that you would
yeah,
not do. Yeah. Like this
yeah,
sense of
yeah, yeah,
achievement, it's so good. And it opens up so many doors where you go like, if I did that, then I can do more, right? And then you
yeah.
feel happy
It's
about yourself, right?
empowering. It's super
Exactly.
empowering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's
And
and that's pretty much what Arcanis is about to me after really we talked and better understood like your culture.
yeah, you see people light up, like, and then they gain a lot of confidence. I mean, we've had people with us for 13 years. I mean, our first employees, we still have them. Some have left, obviously, but and and it's funny because you see these people join us when they're really young and they're super shy. uh, and then maybe they meet their wife or husband. Then they start maybe working out or something, and then you look at them 5, 6, 10 years later, and then like, wow, what a long way, what a strong person they've become. And 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 it's not just because of us, obviously, but we want them to feel like they can be themselves. We had a campaign that we did for recruitment was like, bring yourself, like, um, come as you are. And that's how we want people to feel. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those would be my last two questions. So the first one, I just want to get back to something you said and challenge you a little bit, because now that COVID hit, then you were all home based, and now you are building this huge building for Arcanys, right? Where there'll be
It's not
so
be
many.
huge, but
Okay, this
medium.
yeah,
It's a medium.
it sounds huge when you say it, like 3 levels and fitness and stuff. I'm sure it's going to be big, and it feels a little bit like you're fighting remote work. You want people to come back to the office, right? Or come back to a not to the office, but to some sort of place where they can
Yeah.
meet in person, right?
Yeah.
Is that your
Yeah,
strategy, like
because
fighting remote?
no, well, it's not a strategy to bring people back, but I think I have the feeling, and that's my view, is like we have, okay, everybody was working in an office more or less, like, and then everybody was going completely crazy about their lives, like, because during COVID, you just think about all the stuff you were putting yourself through. It was insane. Everybody was busy, not a minute, stuck in traffic, going there, and then doing all these things, and then suddenly, like, for 4 months, nothing. Like, uh, fear for a lot of people. I was like, oh my god, the business is gonna die. I was like super worried, and Alan was like, chill. The company is fairly solid. Like, we lost a bunch of clients. It gave us some other opportunities, but I mean, it was scary. But then you had all this time also to think, and no, you couldn't go anywhere anyway. So, like, um, and everybody was super happy with their home setup. Like, it's nice to work from home. I'm doing this 90% of the time. I'm working from home. That's my home office. um, and I would never go back to the office full time. But then, after 2.5 years of not seeing your colleagues, um, some people, not everyone, right, are missing the connection that you have with your friends and your colleagues. And so that's why there's this revenge traveling. There's like companies that are forcing people to come back to the office. Some others have different policies and stuff. And so we take an approach where we believe that connection is really important, and we have events throughout the year where we fly everyone in Cebu. We have events at the beach or in a resort. We have this Christmas thing. We have like fun days and stuff. But because our base is in Cebu, we also want to give the opportunity for people to meet when they feel like they want to meet, and so, um, and today we probably have 10-15% of the people who come back to the office because that's what they want or that's what they need, whatever. um, but everybody's kind of happy to meet every now and then. So if these people are, we give them the opportunity to work out, because a lot of the people that we have are working out, so they have to go to the gym anyway. So why don't we give them an opportunity to also catch up with their colleagues and stuff, and strengthen that culture. Plus, if you come work out, that's not something I know we're gonna do, or I'm for sure. But like, if you come work out, then you get a free meal or something. I don't know, like, uh, and it's bringing people together, maintaining the culture. And for people who cannot come to Cebu or not in Cebu, we have created some groups in cities, in other cities of the Philippines, so people can meet there, um, and trying to keep on adding perks and stuff that would keep them close.
So it is safe to say that Arcanys is betting like on a hybrid model where flexibility is the keyword.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you do what you want. We trust you're doing the best for you and your client.
Mm,
And I think the immense majority are doing that. Yeah,
great. I just have a last question before we leave.
go
Um,
ahead.
so yeah, so the first, or actually two questions. Sorry, I keep on coming up with last questions, and I add two questions. So we didn't touch hiring. You said come as you are. Um, is there any cultural aspect that you look when hiring, or is it mostly about technical skills, and then you turn them into, you know, um, athletes when they join Arcanys?
Yeah. Uh, so But the first thing is, because we have so many referrals from existing employees. So the people that we bring in are kind of matching in terms of the mindset and the personality. So that's
Mm,
already good. But we do look at personality traits, to see if people would blend in, the culture that we have, and looking at the past experiences they had, and so on. So yeah, we do pay attention to like the soft skills, and traits of people. Yeah.
got you. And now my very last question: do you have any recommendations for remote teams who are listening?
Nothing that comes on top of my head. I think I try to be as exhaustive as possible into what we did, or what we are, with what we are doing. Oh, there's one thing that I didn't mention actually. Um, I don't know how much this relates to your question for remote teams, but it's more like in the in the in the culture, is that we have one thing that we call Arcanys Ventures, which is the investment arm of Arcanys, where we take stakes in startup scale ups that we're working with. And what we are trying to do is, when we've invested in a company enough to de-risk the investment, we open this to our employees, where we tell them, like, look, if you want to invest part of your bonus stuff, uh, and hopefully get, a good investment and good return out of your investment, then we open that to them, and we add a 20% premium. So if they put 100, then we just put 120, and that's that theirs already. um, Stuff like that. So again, it's on the culture. It doesn't need to be remote. um, uh, but I could add one more thing, and that's more like on the operational side. um, for people who are generally new to remote work, um, and it applies mostly to software development, but it actually could apply to any kind of department. Is, I think a lot of people don't put enough work in improving the specifications they're giving to their people remotely, because there's this bit of the disconnect or the distance from being in the company, and of this sharing of knowledge. So then you have to share that knowledge uh, differently. You can't just replicate how you've been working, like in the same office, or in the same room. And you have to realize that working remotely, there's just a few more things that you need to put into working with the people, like more information. um,
Got you. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And also like in forms that are asynchronous, right? That you don't have to
Yes.
jump into a meeting just to understand how to use that tool, because then everybody is stuck.
Right. Yeah.
Fred,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Was really like very
Thank you,
inspiring to
Daniel.
to see like what you guys do at Arcanix, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah. Thank you very much. The same to you. I think you have really, really awesome projects going on.
Nice. See you soon.
See you, Daniel. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it, rate it, or share it with someone who could benefit from it. Get in touch and tell me what you think on LinkedIn at Frederick Joy, or via the link in the description below.